All right, Tyler, I'm going to have you start by introducing yourself.
My name's Tyler Murphy. Um, I'm a tattoo artist, a musician, and a creative, unorganized creative, I guess, is a good way to put it. I make all kinds of stuff. I get bored with stuff really fast, and then I move on to the next thing. And I just like to kind of be challenged with different kind of art. Um, Anything that sparks my interest, and I think I like connecting with people throughout art. Whatever I'm doing, if I can find somebody else who's interested in the same things, and get close to people and kind of just become friends or whatever. Connect on a spiritual level, on a artistic level, to where it's nerdy talk. Where it's only us who understand what we're talking about. I think that's the main goal with all of it, is to kind of connect with people and to help people, and to learn more about myself.
So how did you get into art?
I think music was first. From a really early age, I got my hands on a little guitar, and after playing like four notes in sequence, I was probably 7 years old, and playing like four notes in sequence that still make sense to this day. Like, it's like a progression that's in pop music. Like, a lot of like actual pop songs use the same four chords. I knew something was there. I was like, oh my god, I wrote a song, and it's like burned into my brain ever since a young age. So I was always into music. I think visual art, like tattooing and painting and stuff, came later, especially painting. I think the music and skateboarding were my first two loves, and after that, I got into tattoos, and I started tattooing because I was broke and I wanted tattoos, and I started tattooing myself, and then all of my idiot friends lined up for me to tattoo them. And then shortly after, I started in a couple different shops. And yeah, that's kind of how I got into visual art. It was because of my love for tattoos. It wasn't necessarily because of, like, I mean, I drew at a young age, but I never seen the point of it as much until tattoos came into the picture.
So how has art and music kind of shaped who you are as a person?
Let me think about this one. Why I got into big reason why I got into art. It was because of something bad. Something bad in my life brought something good, and it was the drug addiction, the drugs. Being broke, I wanted tattoos, so I said, I can do this. I'm gonna, it's something I think I would enjoy. So I started tattooing myself, and it was because I was broke on drugs, but I found that I really loved it. The drugs gave me. It's like, the negative thing. The drugs got me into the art, and then the art pushed me away from the drugs. Now it's given me such a bigger purpose, and the art keeps me connected to my spirituality. I think that since I put the art number one, whenever I'm doing bad in my life, whenever I'm being selfish or self-centered, my art isn't as good. The more that I'm giving and being, of service to other people in my life, and self-sacrificing, it shows in the art. It's like this crazy thing that makes it evident that there's some kind of spirituality that's intertwined with the whole artistic process. It In hindsight, it's like, the biggest curse in my life turned into the biggest blessing. It's really cool to see it, and the whole, I relapsed over the past 2 years. I had almost 4 years sober, and I relapsed for 2 years. And the whole time, I could just, like, my conscience is screaming at me, like, you're not going to receive the blessings, you know what I mean, of what life has to offer, and where this creative journey can take you if you, surrender yourself to it, and let go of the drugs. And the more I would do what God would have me do, or the universe would have me do, the more magic happens in my life. The more opportunities show up, and a lot of cool things. You can't manifest your dreams whenever your hands are on the wheel. You kind of have to. That's such a weird way to say it, because you would think the opposite. But I've learned that, like, in my life, the more I do the thing I don't want to do, which is usually self-sacrificing in some way, the gifts just come, and it's really weird, you know. I think I struggle with that. I battle the idea that the more I work and put my effort and blood, sweat, and tears into my music or my art, that it's going to make it better. And it's almost the opposite. It's like, the more I put that effort into being selfless, then the art gets better on its own. It's so weird. It's like the more I nurture my spirit, the art grows on its own. It's really cool. It's like, it's definitely something that I try to hold on to, because I question that, you know, and I have a hard time, like, staying cemented in that belief, you know. It's almost hard to stay grounded in that. But
So how do you stay selfless in your creative process?
that's very hard, because I think a lot of it is spending time. I need to be bored and be by myself and kind of shut out the world sometimes to create. I think for me, I just divide my time. You know, whenever I go out and during the day, if I'm at work and I focus on my client while I'm tattooing them and I ask them about their lives instead of talking about mine, or I'm helping a family member, or I'm helping somebody get and stay sober, or sharing my experience with that, I think then when it's time to come back to being creative, I can focus on that. I don't have to almost worry about whatever else is going on in my head. Staying selfless during the creative process, I think, like, actually during it, it's like, if the opportunity presents itself to create with somebody, I think you should go and do it. You know what I mean? Just like this now, you know, I think that's a part of it. And giving back to what you've been given, like, as far as tattooing goes, if there's anything I can do to give back to tattooing, whether, you know, I guess you can, like, there's little stuff I've done, but not expecting anything back is giving to tattooing, you know, not expecting, you know, to be rich or successful, and just doing it because you want to make your client happy, or create something that, you know, at the end of the day, both you and your client are happy with. Yeah, I think you can be selfless in all aspects of your life. You know, it's all about intention. And I think the intention makes all the difference in it.
Yeah. So do you feel God when you're creating art?
Yeah, for sure. Especially whenever something, I think, like, my best songs or my best tattoos, sometimes during the creative process, it's almost like a blackout. Because whenever you're done, it's like, how did I make this thing? You know, like, especially songs, like, a lot of times the best things, the best songs, they happen on accident. And it's just, yeah, in hindsight especially, you see a lot of God reflecting on it. Yeah, the best things are often accidents. The more you kind of try to control the writing process or the drawing process, a lot of times it shows and it looks like you struggled or something. It just doesn't have the magic that sometimes the good ones do. And I think God's always, you know, God in the universe or whatever, you know, I've tapped into, at least, you know, the energy. I think, like, it's always there, and it shows up when I need it the most. There's been so many coincidences in my life that it's, like, impossible to deny it. You know, there's a lot of stuff, especially whenever, like, I've been in the depths of being strung out, when I needed a sign from God and I put something out into the universe asking for help, and it shows up when I need it the most, it's like, okay, I forgot about this. That's really whenever I see it the most, is, you know. I think a really cool story is how I got into the first tattoo shop I worked at. First legitimate one that I worked at. I was supposed to get a tattoo from John Boy, where I work now, and he had canceled on me, and I got super bummed. I was like 3 months sober. I was probably 24 years old, and I wanted it now. And, that was something to me that was out of my control, And I reached out to another artist, and he got me in that day, which is rare in itself, to get a good tattoo. And I went in, I got tattooed, and he said, "Hey, this shop in Zelienople, Boney Joe's, is hiring. Go there and tell them I sent you." And it was like just a sign to me. If I would have had it my way, I would have got the tattoo from John Boy. I wouldn't have had to, there's a bigger plan in motion. That started my professional career. It was just one little thing that didn't go my way, and it's like, hold on, I feel like when things don't go your way, it's, there's a bigger plan for me. I try to hold on to that, you know what I mean? Because it's so easy to get bummed in life about, things not going the way you want them to, and, poor me, it's just asking to get high if you're an addict, at least, it's like, there's no spirituality in it. I think, well, that's the spiritual principle, acceptance. So acceptance, open-mindedness, willingness, kindness, empathy, all of that stuff, honesty. The more I'm doing that stuff in my life, in all of my affairs, whether if it's with friends, coworkers, a partner, the better things go, always.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Can you talk to me a little bit about your music?
Yeah. I have a music project called Note to Self, ... It has 3 dots after it, Note to Self, ... And I had been in bands before, and things didn't work out, and I knew I still had to keep creating music. So I started this, it was a little indie rock project at first, and it was just me in my bedroom with my MacBook and a couple microphones, and teaching myself how to mix and engineer. And it's blossomed into this thing where it keeps me connected to my spirituality. Why I named it Note to Self is because it's a reminder. The note to self is that as long as I have a God in my life, everything will work out. And that's proven to be true. I'm so weak emotionally that I've had no other choice but to turn to spirituality. I think I always have been an addict, and I've always felt kind of an outsider my whole life. And when things tended to not go my way, I'd get bummed out, and I would self-destruct. And the music project itself, it's transformed, but the purpose behind it always has kind of stayed the same. It's, to, I think, keep me grounded, and it keeps me sane, being able to create, whether if I'm in a band or not, being able to get a message out there or just express how I'm feeling. It brings me joy. It definitely helps, get through the day, having something to look forward to.
Yeah, it seems like in all that you create, you find God, and that gives you hope in your life.
Yeah, most definitely.
I love that.
It's tough to stay grounded all the time, and I feel selfish a lot, and it ultimately, though, I remember and I remind myself that without God, none of this would be in my life. The gift of being a working artist, being a tattooer, being able to fund my music career and be able to create on a day-to-day basis and stay doing it in itself is such a gift that a lot of people don't get to. And if I can share that with people in any way, I think it gives this all purpose, about how much music and art have helped not only keep me sober, but have brought me to being a spiritual person and keep me doing the next right thing. Being honest, open-minded, and, being of service to others, all that stuff, it's, that's what comes first,
Yeah. It seems like when you live in your fullest potential, it's a gift to the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's what it's, yeah. That's got to be the intent behind it, for
Mhm.
sure, all the time.
So if you had to title this chapter of your life something, what would you title it?
Hanging in there.
Mm.
Either that or perseverance. I would say hanging in there is a good way to put it, because I feel like this is the part like where I'm being tested if I'm really doing this for the right reason. I feel that, like, you know, if I never have super success with my music, that's okay. Like, maybe one person's gonna hear it and it's gonna help them, you know, and it might help them get sober. From being homeless for 4 years to, you know, rebuilding my life from scratch, to, you know, having a house and a music studio and a lot of friends. Hanging in there. Yeah, whether the music goes anywhere or not, you know, just to remember that this is, you know, for me, and to ultimately try to connect to one person, you know, that's
Mhm.
it.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And then I have one more question.
Okay.
What are you learning to love about yourself?
I would say that no matter what, I'm always true to me. If, you know, and that I can't, you know, not everybody's gonna like me, or I'm not always gonna impress everybody, and that's irrelevant at the end of the day if I'm being true to myself. If what the art I'm bringing to the world, whatever, if I like it, whether, you know, how original it is or how good it is technically, if it's me, that's all that matters.
And then I'd like to leave space at the end if you want to say anything directly to anyone watching this.
Thank you for checking this out.
Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah.